Okay, what?
Do you want to get to this now?
Get to what?
Why you're holding your chin up?
Because my neck muscles aren't strong enough to do it? Sure. Let's go ahead.
The following is a production of Dirty Mo Media.
What's up, guys? Welcome to a very salty episode of Actions Detrimental. I'm Denny Hamlin, stunt car driver, number 11, head onto the fence in the Coke 600 driver. Also co-owner of 2311 with Tyler Reddick and Bubba Wallace. My co-host
is Jared Allen. I'm purple vest number 560. Everyone was getting on me about how do you not know your vest number? It's 560. I looked down today.
All right. Well, it just helps the people from the stands when they got their binoculars out and they're looking down on pit road. They're going to look for number 560 now.
Yep.
All right. Yeah. Well, we had a great Memorial Day weekend in the rain here in Charlotte. The weather was very uncharacteristic for sure. To have high 50s and low 60s and rain on what's usually about an 85-degree weekend. But we had our fair share of racing going on. First, we had F1 at Monaco. What'd you think of that?
Boring.
Oh, man.
Boring.
It's such a...
The start is exciting, but anything after that is just
Well, that's why
boring.
Everyone made such a big deal about the qualifying is because you knew that that's the race, right? Like whoever gets the pole, just they win there. So unless some bad strategy happens or something, it's one of those. I get it. It's a historical event. We talked about it, probably earlier this year about when we were talking about Murray kill.
Yeah.
And it was like it was Monaco were definitely killing for sure. But it's just not an exciting race just because the layout of the track is a one-lane track. So.
But the atmosphere is still really exciting.
It is. You can't definitely downplay the atmosphere there. It's been good. But I feel like it's really good everywhere at F1. So I just don't know that, it just seemed like, before the big rise of F1, Monaco was always the one staple of huge event. It was their huge event. But, you definitely, once you tune in and you see them single file out, it's not much to see after that.
So I've not followed F1 for a very long time, but I'm guessing the race has always played out like that for years and years and years.
It has, just because of it's such a track. F1's largely track position type racing anyway. But yeah, it's just the layout of the track. I mean, they can barely run too wide. It's very hard to overtake for sure. But one of the more interesting things that I've heard coming out of that is I started following a few new accounts on F1 of these engineers that were breaking down the underbodies of the F1 cars. So, it was a big deal when like the cars crashed. I guess there was a crane that kept lifting the cars way up in the air.
I saw that.
And everyone was taking pictures. And I'm telling you, that is so valuable. I guarantee you, I mean, no telling the tens of millions of dollars that they spend on developing the underbodies. And you looked at Red Bulls and you were like, oh my gosh, they're racing a different car than everybody else. Like it just had so many different rounded edges and I forget the account that I followed, but he broke it down. It was just like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe I've been staring at this picture of the underside of the Red Bull car for 4 hours now, but here's what I see. Mm-hmm. And so certainly, it's not a benefit probably for Red Bull to see other cars because I know Mercedes had their cars lifted in the air, and I think one of the other manufacturers did as well. But Red Bull had the most to lose.
Yeah. If you're Red Bull, who gives a shit? The other people are doing?
They don't care. But when they got car lifted in the air, yikes. That was a bad day for them. So surely you're going to see some new underbodies coming from the competition that hopefully will close the gap. But, I saw a bunch of articles, too, about, what is F1 to do about this problem? And it's like, well, I like the ingenuity of it. Red Bull, and even Toto Wolff said, well, Red Bull earned that position to be dominant. They worked really hard, and they've found an advantage, and they're kicking our butts. Same thing that we did for many years at Mercedes, and eventually it's up to us to catch them. So I don't know about, changing rules and stuff to bring people back. I'm never a big fan of that. And F1 usually doesn't have a whole lot of griping between teams saying it's what someone else is doing is unfair. But the fact is that we got a team that's stinking up all the races, and certainly it's losing a little bit of its storylines because of it.
Hey, I have a stat for you guys also.
Whoa, he has a mic.
He's got a mic.
We got a mic over here.
I'm going to be honest, when you started talking, I thought I was talking. Like I couldn't figure it out for a second.
Everyone, welcome Travis.
They can't see me, they can only hear me.
Okay.
But there hasn't been an on-track pass for the lead at Monaco since 1996. So after the start.
I bet you what.
Shoot,
I bet Mike Ford from NASCAR. I bet you Mike Ford from NASCAR could come up with some passes. Still love you, Mike. You're my boy. Wow, 1996. Is that for real?
For the lead?
Yeah, there was a person tweeting that he was like, "There's probably some things with at the restarts and stuff like that, but while racing is going on, that was flying around."
I mean, I would have said
a pass for the lead.
Yes.
Yeah. Someone overtaking
else. First place.
How's it possible? Because you can't hardly fit two cars on the racetrack.
I understand, but since for 20 years now, no one has passed for the lead.
Well, have you seen how big those cars are and how small the streets are?
That's true too. They have grown in size. Wider. They've gotten wider, longer. They are growing in size. So
I personally don't think that. I know you're saying that yes, they're lacking storylines, but I think the popularity of F1 was brought on because they were able to make people think it's cool and that they think they should care about it. So I really don't think the racing matters.
Listen, I mean, I have to give an absolute shout out to the announcers, and I heard
they do a good job. They make you
unbelievable they make you think, oh my God, this is unbelievable what Max Verstappen did in the final sector in qualifying. I mean, screaming in the mic, saying, "Cannot believe what just happened," and I'm like, wow, I guess this is a big moment.
I should care about this.
I should care about it.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy when you hear kind of the monotone that we have, right? It's just da 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 da. And so, man, it's like Lee Diffie does an amazing job. Wow, he calls IndyCar races. It's just fantastic. And speaking of IndyCars, let's move on from F1 since there was not much to talk about. The Indy 500. Wow, great turnout there. 300-some thousand people. What a day for Roger Penske. I mean, all around. Forget the Coke 600. It hadn't happened yet. But the guy owns the track. It's sold out. He did, obviously, a phenomenal job. When he bought that track, he just continued to make it better and better. Roger is someone that takes pride in, looking good, feeling good type of mantra. And so, when he bought that racetrack, you knew that he was going to kind of take it to the next level and the fan experience. And it's just it's cool for him to be able to experience that. When you saw him on top of the roof, cheering him on in the last few laps, like he even admitted, like, I'm not the track owner anymore. I'm rooting for my team cars. So great finish. Yeah, somewhat controversial finish, I would say. Because typically, I mean, it was very NASCAR of them to force the end of the race to go green. Yeah. It was very iffy whether they were going to get the race started back before. They brought it down to the red flag, and I guess they started.
They had 3 red flags.
It was a green and white together when they started, right? So there was one green flag lap, and you heard Ericsson saying, this is kind of unsafe. The tires are cold. We were just stopped. I see both points of view because you want to. I mean, you even said it in the bus. You're like, well, surely as a fan, you want to see this thing go green. I'm like, yes, but also you can't bend the rules or change the rules in the middle of the game either. If you hadn't done it before, you shouldn't change it then. But as a fan watching, yes, I wanted to see it end under green.
Yeah, I was very disappointed when the thought that was going to end under caution came into my head, because I'm not someone who's always been invested in the Indy 500. I think this year I was probably more invested than any other year for a variety of reasons. So I was watching the race more or less from the start to the finish, and we get to the end, and I want to see some action on the last lap. I want to see guys trying to win the race. So if it was to end under caution, I would have been really disappointed.
Yeah, and it was interesting because the Penske cars didn't have a ton of speed in qualifying, but they chipped away, and the race is so different because it is such a big handling type of race. Like I said, I've been a huge advocate of put these next gen cars back on the oval there at Brickyard. It's so much more prestigious. The Indy Road Course is not a marquee event. You put us back on the oval, it is a marquee event. And this car, the next gen car, has so much drag down the straightaway, so it's so slow by itself that like I said, the slingshot passes would be huge. As long as you slow our cars up just a little bit in the corners to make it where the wake isn't terrible, you would have fantastic racing. So I'm looking forward to going back there. I'm hearing next year on the oval.
How about the tire? We can't talk about the Indy 500 without the tire.
The tire, wow. Old Snowball, which was the white Chevy Cobalt that took it to the chin.
Yeah.
Thank goodness it was a car taking it and not the stands, because obviously I got informed, it was like, Indy had some fatalities when they came to Charlotte, had a tire, same thing, go over the fence and take some people out, which is, obviously very tragic. So we were very lucky in that scenario that it went into the part that had an opening. Right after the stands there in turn 2, there's a little gap, and then I think there's some suites, like some VIP suites or whatever. Just very fortunate, certainly.
Yeah. I have a question. You might not be able to answer this because you're not an IndyCar driver, but maybe if Connor Daly's listening, he and the Speed Street guys can answer this. Who was the driver that was clipped and then flipped over? Kirkwood?
Yeah.
Was it Kyle Kirkwood?
Mm-hmm.
When he was sliding upside down, he
opened his visor. I have no idea.
That seems like the one thing you don't want to do.
You would
all
think
these
so.
Sparks are flying into your face, and you open the visor. I don't know.
I was dumbfounded as well, but I mean, in the moment, goodness, who knows?
And it was very calm, like he was just very under control. Oh, I'm sliding.
Yeah, it was interesting to see that, and it did. It definitely. I saw a couple of people saying, "Man, that looks like it was right out of the movies, like an action scene." So.
Yeah.
Luckily, no injuries. There was one during practice there that we're thinking about. So I forget the driver's name, but sorry, that's not good. But yeah, he's Stephen Wilson, right? Yes. Okay, I remembered it. So get well soon, Stephen, please. So you want to go to Charlotte?
Yeah, not the same day as Monaco and Indy, but we did eventually get the Coke 600 in today. We were recording this on Monday night.
Yep.
We just got back from
Xfinity
the
race
race
is going on right now.
Yep.
So we're not going to be able to, give our take if there's a unbelievable Xfinity finish. Then you're just going to have to tune in social media for that. But no, let's. Never mind me. I'm holding my head up. My neck is killing me. It hurts so bad.
I guess that's where we should start. Let's not bury the lead, right?
No, we should talk about the race, but oh my gosh, it hurts. It's gonna suck tomorrow. Yeah, I mean, I thought that it was a pretty good race. I mean, one thing I'll tell you is that Charlotte with the next gen is such a better race than it used to be with the other generation car. I still wonder and advocate to, like, why are we on the Roval at this point? The reason that we didn't run the oval twice a year is because the fan turnout wasn't quite as good. The racing wasn't quite as good, and it was just a struggle. Both the 600 and the playoff race was a struggle in the oval. But I think the races have been so compelling on the oval there at Charlotte. I really encourage our team to put us back on the racetrack and out of the parking lot that is the infield that they call a roval.
Obviously, ticket sales were very good for this race.
Yep.
I don't know, how much do you think the prestige of it being the Coca-Cola 600 plays into that? Like, would it really matter if the fall race was on the oval or the roval?
Look at all the carnage. I mean, we're driving the same. We're driving with the same intensity in the playoffs as what we are in the Coke 600. So, so Larson spin out by himself there at the end. We saw all these big names and contenders struggle. Yeah, absolutely. I think we would have maybe even more of a compelling event because it's shorter. It needs to be a 400-mile Charlotte Oval race, and I think the fans would turn back out for it. I think that when we switched that, it was kind of a weird time as well in our sport. We were just more road course races. We need more road course races, and we don't need more of those, especially through a parking lot. Yeah,
I think I do agree. I think the oval's back. Dale Jr. tweeted it. That the oval's back, and I agree.
Yep.
Last year's race was great. This year's race was really good. You had comers and goers all day. Kyle Busch, in my mind, is the one driver that can wreck more than anybody and somehow figure out a way to get his track position back.
Yeah, I mean, I think that actually that race played out to where you could play a lot of different strategies because there were so many cautions. Like there would be a run. We would run 4 or 5 laps, caution come out. Well, the leaders, they don't really want to pit. The guys at the back half of the lead lap cars, they're going to pit. So, yeah, it allows the comers and goers, because of all those cautions, all those natural cautions that we have. Add on top of that the stage breaks. We have more extra stage breaks in this race because of the length of it. So, I do. I think that it was... it's a great race. Next Gen just puts on a great race at that track. We saw early on, I think that, kind of Blaney, asserted himself pretty early on as the guy that had the fastest car. He broke a long winless streak, which was very uncharacteristic of him or Team Penske. But they came roaring back. I mean, they have been not even remotely part of the picture on mile-and-a-half racetracks, being the Fords in general, but Penske, really all season long. And then, bam, they show up to Charlotte, and they've worked out something. They've got something that they figured out that is going to make their cars more competitive, and that's just going to be more of a treat for the fans, right? Because you don't want to tune in each week and say, all right, well, who's going to win? Is it a Gibbs driver or a Hendrick driver, right? 2311 is actually making a statement itself here lately, but this competitive balance that looks like we're starting to get back to is going to be good. Hopefully that carries over.
Yeah, Blaney was that car that obviously good all day, but you had to be there at the end, right? And it worked out with Larson spinning that he was able to get back up front on one of those restarts and then just finish it off.
Yeah, I mean, you see, like I'm in my 2311 gear, so that was kind of my. After I crashed out, it was, I switched into fanboy mode where I'm like, okay, let's go Tyler Reddick because he's got a shot to win this thing.
Yep.
And then I'm watching Bubba Wallace, and he makes a huge charge towards the end to get back to the top 5. And it's like, I'm rooting on them. But it's funny, every caution that came out, I'm like, gosh, dang it, 24 is going to get the lead back here. Like, it was automatic, And so, I don't know if we look at it or not. Probably not. It was earned. That number 1 pit stall was earned because of their performance at the previous race. So it's not like it was just given to them by random draw by any means. But that race in particular, that racetrack, maybe we move the camera a little bit because the camera is so close to the end of the first pit stall. I mean, they literally can drop the jack and move about 20 feet and bam, and be right over the line. So that's why you saw kind of the mix-up between the 6 crew and the 24 crew where they had a disagreement there. Well, I see both sides of it, but the 6 crew is the one that chose P2. And they did it because that timing line at the end of pits, at the pit lane, so you gain time. If you can just drop your jack and just barely accelerate and be at the where they score you, it is, I mean, it's almost I think at Charlotte, it's not a second, but it's like 7 or 8 tenths of a second of an advantage having that number 1 pit stall. So whatever your pit crew does, take 7 or 8 tenths off of that, and that's your total time on pit road, which is why you saw William Byron winning the race off pit road every single time. His pit crew, I think, has been ranked number 1 all year. Pretty sure. Pretty close. It's been close between the 24, the 5, the 1, and the 99. They've been all just rock solid all year long. But I hated every caution because I'm like, William fell back to third. Well, he's going to come out first. And it was like, you could just print it. It was going to happen every time. But it did make for, exciting when Larson spun there. Blaney just barely had him edged out there. So, it was. I didn't like watching the race for sure. I was still pissed.
Byron was plus 18 on pit road.
I'd surprised it's not more than that. Is it only 18? Well, I guess if you only fall back to about third or fourth, then there was times where he would fall back to fourth, fifth, and bam,
plus 3,
P1.
plus 3, plus 3, plus 3.
It was so huge, and with track position being so massive, it's like, should we give number 1 pit stall that big of an advantage? Like, it's already an advantage, but why can't we move that timing out at Charlotte? Just move it another 30, 40 feet. Like, he's still going to have a 3/10 advantage on rolling time, but maybe not almost 6, 7 tenths. That's maybe a little extreme.
It'd be interesting to see what that looks like with a different pit crew, right? Because Byron's pit crew is good and they are consistent.
Yeah. Just FYI, we won the All-Star race back in 2015 or 16. Same thing. I had a fast pit crew. I came in 6th on the final pit stop. I had the number 1 pit stall, out P1. Won the race. Game over.
Good pit crew. That's what matters.
It is, but again, your pit crew can be so much slower, and because of that stall, like the pit crews, the difference between the number 1 pit crew and let's just call it the 12th, 13th ranked pit crew is about 6 to 7 tenths. That's about the spread that you got. And then it drops off a little bit more after that. So, yeah, it shouldn't be that big of an advantage. They can move that timing out just a little bit further because the yellow line is actually quite a bit further. Like, because they'll tell me, okay, it doesn't matter. Like, you've already crossed the scoring line. It doesn't matter. And I've still got a whole other section on pit road left to go. So they could push that back to make it a little bit more fair for sure.
So that's when your spotter comes on the radio. Doesn't matter. That you can still speed in that section?
Yes, which it makes no sense to. You've already been scored on your pit out. So, yeah, it's just an extra section. I really don't know what for. It seems like you would just start it right then, but it is. It's just the way it works out. And at some tracks, number 1 pit stall does not mean as much. The camera out is quite a bit further away from the nose of the first car, but Charlotte, it's one that is really, really close. Number 1 pit stall is huge there. I can't tell you how many races have been won because someone came out first from that number 1 pit stall.
This was one of the first races I can remember, at least a race that I've watched, where we had some beef mid rain delay.
Yeah. Mid rain delay. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I looked at that. Certainly, as this car owner, I don't love it at all. I mean, just keep your hands in your car. That's what kind of got him and Bowman into it. Last week it was the hand gesture. Like, just stop it. Just stop it. Like, just cause them. You've got some positive momentum on the racetrack. Let's just chill for a little while and just take the dubs when you get them, and that's running well. I don't know how many top 5s. Probably he's probably finished in top 5, 4 or 5 of the last 6 or 7. He's just doing fantastic on the racetrack. I hate that we're talking about this for sure.
Why do you, as a driver, take the middle finger so personally sometimes? Maybe not you personally,
Jared,
but drivers as a whole. I don't know. I feel like,
Let me ask you a question. If I didn't know you, or let's just say I
but
do
you
know
do know, all the drivers do know each other.
Okay. And we walk by you walk by me and we bump shoulders and we turn around and you say, you.
But we know each other.
Are you going to take that personal?
Do we know each other?
Like, and I say it in a serious manner, you.
I probably wouldn't.
Oh, Jesus.
We know each other. So therefore, to me,
Well, you're not friends.
right, but I don't know. It feels like it just comes with the territory.
No. It's out of style. Everyone needs, whoever still does it needs to stop because it's out of style. Stop doing it. It's childish. Like,
It's funny when you see it on TV.
I know, but you like content. I like
Exactly.
like it's just not worth it. Like, many times someone's gotten the finger and the next thing you know, they just get dumped in the next corner because people take it personally. It is. It's just not something you should probably do for sure.
To answer your question, the last 4 races, All-Star race included, Bubba's been top 5.
But yet we're talking about this.
Yeah.
It's just not. It's not what we want to do. Not what we want as a race team for sure. So, want to talk about how great these guys are running on the racetrack. Him and Tyler, 2 top 5s again, back-to-back weeks. 2311's on the rise for sure.
Yeah. Bubba's 2 was significantly impressive because he started that last restart 14th.
Yeah.
And
I watched
2 laps later, he's up to 6th.
Well, I was looking at the scoring monitor because I was like, oh, man, he must have way fresher tires than the guys he's around. And he was actually only 2 lap fresher tires. So he just had really good restart. That's his strong suit. He's super good getting the most out of cars on restarts.
Okay. Do you want to talk about why you're holding your chin up now?
I'd like to circle back because on one thing between the drama between the 24 and the 6 team, just to put a button on that, the 6 team is at fault. They're mad because the 24 is coming into his box and they can't get to their car. Well, breaking news, if you choose to pit down there right behind the number 1 pit stall, that guy's probably going to be running better than you all day. He's obviously got a fast. This is on a normal week, but they knew the 24 was going to be good. And so when you choose to pit behind a good car, you're just going to have to wait. You cannot jump off the wall until he clears yours. Now, they were talking about, well, why isn't this a penalty? Because NASCAR's got this new rule where you can't impede the other team's pit stop.
Right.
They said that has more to do with when let's say Brad was in his stall servicing his car, William can't come around and cut the ankles off of the guy who's changing the tires or carrying the tires. So right? So that's what that box is painted there for. I heard they gave William a warning saying don't do that. I think that's what I heard. But that's on the 6 team. The 22 team did this for many, many years. They just always pick, if they didn't get the pole, screw it, we're taking P2. So if you don't outrun us, you're gonna have to come around us all day. And if you, in my opinion, you pick P2, you have to put up with it because you chose that spot that you're gonna be in a tough spot all day long. You're gonna have to, your pit crew's just gonna have to wait a minute. And so your job as a driver is to build a gap between you and the 24 car. So if you come in right behind them and we're pitted right next to each other, my team will tell me leave a gap, about a car and a half length gap for them to jump between the 2 cars. That way it doesn't slow our pit stop way down. And I didn't see whether they were directly nose to tail or there was a gap between them. But, the 6 team wanted to jump over the wall and the 24 is coming through. It's coming through. So I put that more on the 6 team. If you choose down there, it's your own fault.
So how do you? I mean, just how do you go about that then? Like you said, just leave a gap.
Yeah, you're supposed to just leave a gap and give that's your penalty. That's your penalty for not outrunning the car you chose to pit behind. So that pretty much covers that.
Okay.
Okay, what?
Do you want to get to this now?
Get to what?
Why you're holding your chin up?
Because my neck muscles aren't strong enough to do it? Sure. Let's go ahead.
This is what everyone's tuning in for. So, I don't know. You can set the scene. I feel like you were in the car.
I was. I mean, we were myself, Chase, and the 17 were on fresh tires. We were coming to the end of the stage. There was about 15 laps left in the stage, and I felt pretty good about making some ground. The 9 car was struggling. He didn't have a very good car all day. Obviously, I had time to kind of go back and watch some of the race while I was sitting in the bus while the race was still going on. And, I think, I was in a position where I was trying to make a move on him. It's the same mistake that we see week in, week out on these mile and a halves where, I mean, again, what I love about this is that it's the same people that are like, Chastain said he left them just one lane. Well, I mean, there was a gap between me and the 9. I didn't hit the 9. He hit the wall. I squeezed him up there, no question about it. You could see fire coming out of my car. You could see telemetry. I'm slamming on the brakes to try to stop and get off of him to not make contact. But ultimately, he made contact with the wall because I forced him up there and then threw a hissy fit. And, he was having a day anyway, in his opinion, and he threw a little temper tantrum and decided to hook a left on us down the straightaway. And not only straightaway, but the dog leg. Like, I hit head on, not sideways, like the worst part of the racetrack that I could possibly hit. So, I don't know. We've seen this. I've seen this with him in the past. When he got pissed off when Larson kind of drove him up in the fence at California. Larson's leading the race at the end. He intentionally caused a caution there, trying to screw Larson over, his teammate. And then when Harvick and him got into it, he came in. Where's Harvick? I'm going to help my teammate out. Blocked Harvick so Kyle Larson could win. Like, this is just this is bullshit. And so there's no explanation that he could possibly give, which he didn't, of reason for hanging a left. He obviously didn't want to admit it. He did I can't hear you, sorry. And then, sorry, I can't hear what you're saying, but my car just couldn't drive it. Bullshit. The wheels were dead straight. Even after we crashed and, destroyed our he goes down the back straightaway, and you look at both tires, front tires are pointed the correct direction. And I pointed out in the data that I tweeted that once he got into the wall, there was nothing wrong with his car. He's turned the wheel back straight, like he was going down the straightaway, and you can tell by data whether you've got toe link damage or not. So you can tell that basically if your line is skewed one direction or another, where you have to turn it left, turn it right, whether you've been a toe link or done significant damage. For God's sakes, Tyler Reddick pounded the wall twice as hard as he did and didn't hurt his car. Everyone hits the wall. But he threw a hissy fit, and he just hung a left on us in the most dangerous part of the racetrack that you possibly could. And it ended my day and his, and in my opinion, he shouldn't be racing next weekend because NASCAR set a precedent last year on this. If you want to quote Steve O'Donnell, he says, when they asked why did they suspend Bubba Wallace, he says, our actions were really specific to what took place on the racetrack, and we look at it on how that incident occurred. In our minds, that was a dangerous act. We thought that it was an intentional and it put other competitors at risk. And by the way, as the car owner of Bubba Wallace, that was bull too. I agreed with it. That's why I look at all the comments. I said it was bull. Like, that is just so immature to right rear hook someone. It's just childish, and it just pisses me off because, you got to be better than that. I don't give a shit. Like, what goes on in your head to think that that's the right move to make? I don't know it.
So you tweeted out the SMT data afterwards. Why did you choose to do that?
So they're looking and they're like, well, his car obviously must have been broke. He would never do that. Well, why? Is he not before? I mean, I've given you instances where he's lashed out being like a kid. So it's agitating the shit to me. I'm the one holding my head up here. Again, I look at Chase Elliott made comments May 1st about how unsafe he felt the cars were. But yet You think that's okay? I just don't. It doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. And okay, let's go keyboard warriors as Mike Joy says. Well, you fenced Chastain. Yeah, I rubbed him against the wall. Didn't involve anybody else. Didn't even take him out. Didn't cause not a bit of damage to his car. Right rear hooking someone at 180 at Charlotte in the dog leg is not the same. So don't come at me with that. I don't want to hear it.
Have you spoken to him, or were you in the infield care center at the same time?
No, I was so mad, and you can hear I'm mad. I'm really, really mad now. I couldn't see straight. I didn't think I would pass my concussion test because I'm like, I can't see straight. I am so on fire. If he walks through that door, I don't know. I'm just gonna I'm gonna take a swing. If I get my ass whooped, I get my ass whooped. But I don't care because that was just absolutely wrong in every single way. It's wrong. And so NASCAR needs to do the right thing and be consistent here. You know, I've gotten the shit in of a ton of calls of these balls and strike calls. It's time to make the right call. There's no excuse that you can give. He was going dead straight and all of a sudden takes a hard left 120 degrees with the steering wheel. That is not an accident. It's intentional.
In your mind, is the right call matching the suspension that Bubba had from Vegas, or is it maybe one-upping that now? Because I feel like, you know, this is 2 times that the second time a driver has right hooked someone.
It unfortunately, other series see this, right? And we've seen this in other series. I hate to say it, Carson Hocevar, you know, the kid's got a ton of talent. He did that to someone at IRP, and
that's what I'm saying.
Noah Gragson did it. You know, I don't know, he took out a bunch of cars somewhere, but we got to stop it. And if the one race suspension above it didn't get his attention, well, fine, do it more. I don't care, but they need to do. If they do nothing, we're having an emergency episode. That's a fact. And I'm going to bring up all the instances that has incurred a big penalty, because, you know, I'm not sitting here crying wolf because, I just want to see him, you know, struggle. I don't give a shit where he is in points. It's wrong. Do what's right.
For what it's worth, NASCAR did say they are going to take a look at this in the next 24 hours. So if this podcast comes out on Monday, I anticipate that there'll be a ruling of some sort come Tuesday. Correct?
Yeah, I guess so. I'm ready to move on.
Well, Ryan Blaney wins the race. We kind of already touched on that.
No, listen, I'm really happy for Ryan. Obviously, he is a great dude, and I know he really works hard. He's got a ton of speed, and you know, him and Joey and that team, they've kind of been a little bit of a victim of just kind of their cars have been off this year, and so they, like I said, they haven't been as part of the story as what we were used to seeing. But yeah, it's a resurgence for him. I'm sure a huge confidence boost. It's a major win. I mean, it's probably it's really close between the Southern 500 and the Coke 600, which one's bigger. But maybe you probably give the edge to the Coke 600 slightly on that. But it's a resume building type of win for him.
Well, you could see how much it meant to him on the front stretch. He was brought to tears in the interview, just saying that he didn't know when he would get to victory lane again. I guess that's something that you could probably relate.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, for me, it was, I think, 2018. I didn't win a race, and you definitely start to set in some self-doubt. I think he's smart enough and self-aware enough to know that he's very talented, and that he was just kind of, can't drive a slow car fast, and but you always just want to be, well, if you don't have a winning car, at least beat the guys that you're racing with the same car, right? And so it's those little victories that you got to search for week in, week out. And I'm as a competitor of his, I don't want him to get going, him or Joey or any of those guys, because they certainly can be tough to beat week in, week out. But I am happy for him for sure.
Looking at this bracket we have in front of us. There's no way. I mean, I obviously know that there's not any perfect brackets. But
Wasn't after week 1.
but wow. I mean,
Travis, can you get us an update of who's leading? Or will it be updated? Your point.
Oh, you want an update of like the?
Yeah, of the 45,000 brackets.
I'll check right now.
who has the most points out?
Yeah,
of
I want to give
how
them a
many
shout
could
out.
do.
You got 2 weeks left. We're down to the final 4.
Yep.
I got beat out by Bowman.
Bowman-Berry.
Yeah, it was Bowman/Berry, but
The dream team.
I don't know. Barry should have a seat next week. Maybe he'll get back in it.
Standings haven't been updated yet, but
Oh, shoot. All right. Well, we're down to the final 4. Bowman beat Hamlin. Byron beat Harvick this week. Wallace beat Chase Elliott. And then Keselowski beat Chastain. What happened to Chastain? I didn't see him all race. Did he have
I think he's
problems?
I think he's just not as aggressive.
Oh, shut up, Jared. Stop it. No, they had to. That was, I mean, I would have thought that Trackhouse would be like really tough this weekend, but it just seemed like they were struggling for speed. But, you know, what's interesting, I thought all the Hendrick cars struggled for speed for the most part during the daytime. But then when it turned night, it seemed like they really started coming on.
So you had mentioned in your pre-race interview when you're in the car that because of the overcast, you didn't anticipate the track changing very much.
Yeah, I mean, again, I never saw the night. I didn't make it that far.
Yep.
But I didn't think it would change much, but maybe it did. I'm not really sure. But yeah, it was. I thought it was pretty consistent for at least the first 200 laps that I was out there. I didn't think it would change a whole lot, which, I mean, you would argue that Blaney was one of the best, if not the best car in the day, and certainly he proved himself at night. He was the only one that could really, when he got the lead, kind of pull away. And so that kind of gives you the indication that, you know, he's not just hanging on because he's got track position. His car was very, very strong. So one other thing, too, with the results, I wanted to look at the rundown because when I was watching the race, I was like, man, shout out Ricky. Ricky Stenhouse continues to get better and better. That team continues to get better and better. A top 10 for him. Austin Dillon, I don't know if that's a huge surprise, but they just always make their way into the top 10 before the end of the day. They kind of capitalize on a lot of attrition usually, and they grinded their way to the top 10 there. They started running better towards the end, I noticed. Zane Smith in the 38, top 10.
Career best for Zane in the Cup Series.
That's great. That's awesome. JJ Yaley. Shout out JJ. 16th. That's awesome. I thought I saw something about that was like the highest finishing Rick Ware car on like a non-speedway race or something like that. So good for them. Very, very good for them. But then, man, you see some trouble down at the bottom. Jimmy had a tough race. Hate that. I saw an article where he was talking about, you know, he just felt ill-prepared going into this race, you know, as a kind of a part-time team. That's a strain anyway on your company. Like, I was wondering, like, well, man, who do they even have pitting that car? Like, because I know that, you know, they get pit crews from the outside. And so, yeah, it was tough. He didn't feel prepared. I didn't see what caused the incident. He said, I just saw a headline that said, Jimmy says he didn't know he was 3 wide when he got in the wreck. But I hate seeing it because we talked about it in our pilot episode that, like, dang it, I didn't want Jimmy to come back because, you know, the most likely scenario was going to be that he was going to struggle, and I didn't want to see Superman to be to have his kryptonite, which Father Time is undefeated for sure. But not only that, listen, let's be real too. When you're driving, you know, Hendrick, you know, versus Legacy is an up and coming team. So
Right.
it's just coming into the Cup Series. It's going to have its bumps in the road. And certainly I know that he's very optimistic with the changeover for Toyota next year.
Yeah, we've seen that too with RFK a little bit, right? And how there's more and more coming into their own each week.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think we give RFK enough credit for, even when it seems like the Fords are not quite what you would expect, or they're not up to par, that Brad and Chris Buescher, Brad mostly has really started to come into his own. Brad's a really, really good driver. I mean, he really is. I just thought that, he made a career choice there where he was willing to rebuild, right? Him and Penske, that relationship ran its course, but I always thought that Brad. Now, I shouldn't say I always thought. I was going to say always thought he was a great driver. But it's true. I did. Now, publicly, I may have shamed him a little bit because I was angry with him because he was wrecking me in the Xfinity Series all the time. But, I remember back in the day when they asked, who's the next guy coming up, like you? And I'm like, well, it's Brad. And they're like, what? That got 6 laps down in that piece of car? And I was like, yeah, that guy. But he's definitely proving to be a very instrumental part of that organization, and definitely looking like he's setting them in the right direction for performance.
Do you and him talk a lot more now about this ownership stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. We do, and certainly we have same opinions, sometimes differing opinions, but we talk it out, and I think that he's an asset as a race car driver. He's an asset as an owner in our sport. So that group was definitely lucky to get him.
Speaking of ownership, we don't have this on our rundown, but driving down 77, there's some walls.
Yeah.
Going up for the new 2311 Racing.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I got to figure out how I'm going to pay for it, but yeah, it's really excited to have that starting to come into its own. And, they say we'll be in it for next season, but, this off season. So they got a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
They got a lot of work to do, but I trust those guys to get her done.
It's cool because I know, following this project of yours for the last couple of years, knowing that you want this shop to be eye-opening and eye-catching. And when you drive down 77 and you see these walls up, off the interstate, it's like, oh, whoa, what's that?
Yeah, I mean, whenever we kind of decide to release the renderings and stuff, I love design. When it came to designing my house, I just took little bits and pieces from hotels or different houses that I've been in, and just kind of put it all together into what I thought I would love, right? And this shop will be different for sure. I'm so excited for it. I love the little design things that we've done. My goal was to create a headquarters that people love to work at. And when 5 o'clock comes around or 4 o'clock, whenever the day's done, they still want to hang out there, And so I think that's an important part. And these team members, crew guys, man, the hours that they have to pull is just so tough, right? And anything we can do to try to make their jobs or their lives easier, we try to do, and it really helps with morale within the team. And I think we have a very good, group of guys over at 2311 that really work as one, from setting up our race cars to building them. We are definitely one team. When one team wins, the other team benefits just as much. Like that's the way we do things, and hopefully we're going to have a nice place for them to work soon.
Moving on over to Dear Denny. First question we have this week is, should Cup drivers be barred, or so not allowed, to run Xfinity or truck races when racing at a new track? So, for example, in North Wilkesboro last week.
My first answer would be no, because I think it's a good build-up, but the competitor in me says yes, because it probably is an unfair advantage, but it's not unfair if you go get a ride, but it's not everyone can go get a ride. if you're Hendrick cars, you go get a truck or go get a car and field it because you think it's going to make your team better. But not everyone has those resources to be able to just, oh, you want to run trucks this weekend? No problem. I'll make that happen. Like that's a good perk to have for sure. So I think, it's tough to say. Like Chicago, holy cow. I mean, is Cup the only thing running Chicago?
I think we have Xfinity there too, right, Travis? Fact checker.
He'll get back to us on that. But I would say, let's just say Chicago, right? Oh my gosh, it would be a huge advantage to be running another series on a track that we've never seen. And I heard that it's so tight, like it's blind corners a little bit. Yeah, it would be a huge advantage. So
Xfinity's there too at Chicago.
they are.
Yeah.
I love that we have Travis with a mic. Now pull that up, Jamie. Pull that up for me, Jamie. Travis.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, we're never going to change the rule, but yeah, it would certainly whoever runs Xfinity is probably going to be top of the charts when it comes to Cup practice.
Yeah, I think it's is running those races that beneficial? Because you're going to run the track in the sim, right? So how much more beneficial is it running it in a different car in real life than it is in a sim?
A lot.
A lot.
Yeah. It's just the visual. I mean, even though your braking markers might be different, it's just the visual. And certainly when you run a Cup, an Xfinity or a truck race, there's just little things in the racetrack that you learn. Like this line, you don't want to run here, or you do want to run there, or the bottom was super dominant, so make sure you don't get off the bottom. Like there's just, like at North Wilkesboro, there's little patches that until I ran and got a bunch of reps on the racetrack, like I didn't know that, oh, it's way faster if you do it this way. And I'm sure after a bazillion laps of running, Kyle Larson knew every in and out. He it proved out because he was the first one to run the apron in turns 3 and 4 coming off turn 4. He was the first one in the Cup race to drive all the way down to the concrete. Well, because he was we were thinking, man, I don't know, our cars, it's got diffusers, so I don't know if you put a big air gap under there, does it make it worse? I mean, he knew right away. Well, I'm going to do that because I've got repetitions doing it. So I think that it is an advantage. Is it really unfair? No, probably not. But yeah, I would say that it'd be cool if we all just stayed in the Cup Series. But again, that's not what sells tickets, and that matters.
Have you given any thought to calling more Xfinity races, or at least the drivers-only broadcasts?
I did the drivers-only broadcasts, I don't know, lots of years ago. I mean, I didn't love it. I mean, I'm kind of sort of entertained, but I don't know. I like watching professionals do it because they're so good at it. And when you see, I don't know, when you just like hear F1 commentators or whoever, like even Fox or NBC, hearing the guys that have been doing this for such a long time and how good they are at, leading one right to the other. Like that's what makes the guys at MRN so special, right? Is that one knows when one stops talking, bam, the other one's coming, right? And they've just got that chemistry that works so well. And so I like it when the professionals do it. But, would I entertain it when my career's done? Yeah, maybe. I got to stop working at some point, though. I just feel like I just overload myself so much with everything I have going on that I don't know that I want to just continue traveling every single week after I'm done driving, whenever that might be.
Yeah. Well, what's the retirement age? It's like 65, right? So you got like 20 years left.
I got a long way to go.
Gateway coming up this week. What are your thoughts on Gateway? It's a one year anniversary.
Oh, jeez. I know they're going to play that highlight all week, right? Me and Chastain.
Yep.
Listen,
I mean,
here's
really,
the deal.
we can put that in the rearview mirror.
You know what? I hate this because it's like, oh, well, it's you and Chastain, you and Elliott, like, I'm the one getting wrecked every time. Like, stop the shit. Like, I'm the one that's getting the crap into these deals. So, I don't know. I don't know how to stop it other than I don't even know. I don't know how to stop it, but I hate that we're in the headlines for this kind of stuff, especially when I'm getting the shit end of it. I guess I did give Larson the shit in at Kansas. That's, in my opinion, hard racing for sure. Definitely not anything intentional. But yeah, it's Gateway. I'm looking forward to it. St. Louis did a phenomenal job with that racetrack last year. Track president there did a phenomenal job. He also got me on a badass golf course on Friday or Saturday. I can't remember where, but I'm going to have to give him a ring again for that. But yeah, I like it. I think it's a fun track. It widened out. They put a lot of resin on, I remember, at the top of that track, and it made turns 3 and 4 super wide. More than likely they'll probably do that again. But yeah, it's just so much has happened with cars, and this next gen that we're running now, it's got so many different bars and pieces and stuff cut out of it from what we had last year that I don't know. Clearly, for the one car was the most dominant car in the 600 last year, and they couldn't hit their ass today. So it was like you just can't really draw too many comparisons from when it's 12 months difference. When it's race 1 versus race 2, yes, but not when it's 12 months removed. So I'm excited. I mean, I think that we should be pretty good. We've been pretty good everywhere. This officially ended our white hot.
Yeah, that's true.
That sucks.
First DNF of the year as well.
I know, and I saw that we were 5 races away from 5 races away from setting a modern era record for most lead lap finishes in a row. And you know what? Who did it? Chris Myers. He gave me the damn. This kicker's never missed an extra point in 762. Oh, he just shanked it. He did that to me. We had a little pre-race interview, and he was talking about something about lead lap. I think he was talking about lead lap finishes. He's like, every race this year. I was like, oh, thanks, Chris. You just gave me the announcer jinx.
He
He's
Rick
like,
Allen'd you.
And he did. He Rick Allen me. Thanks a lot, Chris Myers. So, yeah, here I am with a stiff neck, a pissed off heart, and a broken car.
Well, we got Actions Detrimental merchandise, if that cheers you up.
It's the only thing I like it. It's just my name's pretty big. I don't know if I like my name being that big. You know what? You should have them really, really small with Jared Allen. Well, no, it says with Denny Hamlin.
Yeah.
And then we need to have and Jared Allen.
Well, we need to change the proper logo then.
Tiff, if you're listening, Mike Davis, let's work on the artwork here. We want Jared's face on something.
I think we have some hats.
Face.
We had some hats coming, but why don't we get like a black shirt with like a purple vest as like on
that idea was brought up.
That's a winner.
That idea was brought up.
I mean, if
number 526.
If anyone's gonna make it happen, it's you.
560.
560.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you could pick whatever number. You could.
I love that idea. Shirt with a purple vest.
Yeah.
Embroidered 560. Love that. I'd buy it. Yeah. What else we got?
You can get these if you are interested. If you're unlike Denny and you do want Denny's name on them in nice big lettering, the logo, you can get them at DennyHamlinStore.com. There's hoodies, there's T-shirts, and soon to be carrying hats as well.
Well, I think that's it. I'm gonna ice up, son, and get better and go get them in St. Louis and try to get. I really wanted number 50 to come at Charlotte. I had so many friends in town, plus the friends that are in town actually come to the race. Shoot. Well, we're going to have to wait, but number 50 is going to have to wait, but maybe it'll come this weekend. I'm usually good at bouncing back. I'm a good bounce back guy. We did delay the taping of this because we were upstairs watching Game 7 of the Heat and Celtics. Heat. Love that they pulled through. No history made here. So
I don't know how
like you didn't like that.
No, I just don't know how you come back from down 3-0 and play like that on Game 7 at home. I know. Game 6 was so freaking exciting. Oh my
gosh, it was exciting. But this was just kind of never really got close enough to get super excited. But our boy JP's happy, isn't he? Yeah, that's right.
Watch the video.
Yeah.
JP, I like that.
Yeah, I got to Venmo JP. Him and Larson, actually. So, all right. Well, we'll see you guys next week, and hopefully we have better things to report.
Yep.
See ya.
Like, follow, subscribe, and all the things on socials. Now we'll see you next week.
Follow, subscribe.
Check out Dirty Mo Media on Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram.